Greed is the desire to have more. Envy is the desire for others to have less. Now that we've established that Pirate Software was caught lying about having sexual interactions with Lyric Wolf, claiming, and I quote, "When you were in the sphere of friendship, you tried to push that to something sexual and I turned you down. After that, you went after Shay and made her so uncomfortable that she panics when thinking about that convention center to this day." Now, we've already debunked these lies, but I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to say that not only did Pirate Software lie about them having sexual interactions, Pirate Software wanted a relationship with this person, or at the very least, wanted to keep them on a tight leash by holding a relationship over their head, and was envious of their relationships with other people. Opening out of the gate with, "You ignored my advances and ERP'd with other dudes, not much else to say there. To be real, this is fucked up. Like, I have no idea if you even realize how fucked up this is to me. We even have plans to meet up IRL in like a month." And this is before the TwitchCon meetup where Pirate Software allegedly gets dicked down and then decides to dump this person. "This is the reason I don't date people. Can't stop yourself from fucking around for 5 minutes. I was literally here every night trying to get affection from you while you were fucking somebody else. Yeah, it is fucking, is how it is. You replied to me when you could, but you had time to ERP with others." Lyric Wolf responds, "I don't know how many others you think there were, but there was one, and I don't think you know how many times I did it, and it was 2. So you have to ask yourself, after these DMs have already been proven to be true, based on the fact that Pirate Software completely lied about having sexual interactions, and Lyric Wolf scrolled the Discord and showed that clearly they were having not only ERP, but also you could see Pirate Software joining calls, 8-hour calls, there was a 12-hour call, just constantly, then you're only left with the conclusion that it's kind of weird that Pirate Software wanted to pretend that these DMs didn't exist, going so far as to say that these edited logs, quote-unquote, made up some weird hypersexual cartoon of who I am. Hey Thor, are you okay, buddy? Do you want a nice, relaxing spritz, a glass of water? Do you want to come on stream and debate about it? Nah, I didn't think so. The most ironic thing about this set of DMs of Pirate Software complaining about getting cheated on, he had a wife at the time. Isn't that interesting? I can't wait to see what else is in these logs. So that conversation took place on October 1st, and then October 2nd, Lyric Wolf comes out with, "Thor, I would like to date you." Thor gives a face. Lyric Wolf says, "I felt like I should be more direct about that." Thor says, "Yeah, that's a much nicer change." But then later responds, "As long as we don't have any more surprises like this, yes, I'd like a week for things to calm down." Which I guess is fair, but it does give the impression that Pirate Software is reeling them back in to keep them on that leash. Evidenced by the fact that after they fucked at TwitchCon, allegedly, he basically goes absolutely nuclear on this person. But we'll get into that in Wrath. But let's take a look at October 27th. While they're at the TwitchCon meetup, Pirate Software says, "As far as I knew, we were fooling around and seeing if we were compatible. You've been pushing for a lot of commitment and that kind of thing, but I have a lot of work stuff going on and not a lot of time." So speaking of that leash, I guess you only want what you can't have, especially considering they literally established a relationship on October 2nd. But given his weak wording, it seems a little intentional, doesn't it? If Lyric Wolf steps out, "You cheated on me, you're a piece of shit, whatever," right? If Pirate Software steps out, "Well, I said I'd need a week for things to calm down." And then in this conversation saying, "I thought we were feeling each other out." It is interesting how their relationship shifts from moment to moment, given Pirate Software's motives at the time. This guy isn't a rat, he's a fucking weasel. Which is why when Wingless Emoto comes out and says, "Oh, me and Pirate Software are all cool," especially given some of the tactics that he takes, going all the way back to his alias, Moldavia's Fig Tree in the Second Life days, going to the WoW situation for how he manipulates and changes facts, and when confronted in conversation, quote-unquote, takes accountability without taking accountability. There's a word, it's on the tip of my tongue, it's DARVO, that's what it is, it's DARVO, and they actually point that out in the article. Deny, attack, reverse the victim and offender. And we're going to watch that in real time because later on, just a couple lines later in this conversation, Lyric Wolf says, "And a wife apparently." Pirate Software, weird fucking response. Someone's accusing you who you just had a sexual interaction with of having a wife. You might say something like, "No, I don't have a fucking wife." You wouldn't say, "Is there a ring on my finger?" What kind of weird non-response is that? Interesting. Lyric Wolf says, "There's not, I just heard about it, that's all." Pirate Software says, "Neat," as if he's annoyed for someone rightfully asking, "Hey, bro, I just heard from someone you have a fucking wife, is that true?" Lyric Wolf says, "I don't want to jump to conclusions, so I just wanted to talk, I guess. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make it weird." Pirate Software says, "It's a bit weird." Lyric Wolf says, "It is. I guess I just feel like I'm in an awkward place right now." Pirate Software says, nice, thanks for the giant awkward bomb. Lyric Wolf comes out with a specific, not even an accusation, just a question. Hey, bro, do you have a fucking wife? Pirate Software denies having a wife, reverses the offender and the victim by saying, nice, thanks for that giant awkward bomb. Like, fuck you for trying to find out I have a wife, I guess. And then goes on the attack. Essentially, to summarize this interaction, Lyric Wolf shares some conversations with Shay, like, hey, I don't know what the fuck's going on. You said this person had a wife, and now they're denying it. Who Shay is not really important to this story, just know that they were also at the meetup. Lyric Wolf says, I'm sorry. Thor says, nah, dude, you're not. Sending logs to Shay? Lyric says, what? I don't know what you want. Thor says, please leave me alone. You showed Shay logs of our conversation, now he's talking to me about them. Why that would ever be okay is beyond me. Lyric says, I have no words for you right now. If you would have just told me what's going on, I would have been fine with it. Again, Pirate denies it. Don't really care, dude. Nothing is even going on. Lyric says, look, when I showed Shay, I had no idea how deep this ran. Thor says, how deep this ran, lol? Definitely not discussing this with you. Another case of Pirate Software being too mature. He's too mature to have this conversation with this person. Now, to be fair to him, he didn't go super hardcore, personal, insulting, anything like that, but clearly trying to play the victim, making this person feel kind of shit about inquiring whether or not, hey, I heard you had a secret fucking wife, might be important information for me to gather, and then says, basically, don't talk to me anymore. Now, notice the difference between the way Lyric handles confrontation with Pirate Software and how Pirate Software handles confrontation with Lyric. One little problem, right, that Lyric brings to Pirate Software, their entire relationship is over. Pirate Software going and basically accusing them of cheating. Lyric Wolf is like, alright, I'm sorry, I'll take the hit on that. Right? Not beating the narcissist DARVO allegations. In the next part, I'm going to be covering all the slimy little tactics that Pirate Software employs when Lyric is no longer giving him access to money.
Yeah.